What's going on, people? Welcome back to the Freedman Collective for Tuesday, June 22nd. I'm Darvell. I got the lovely co-hosts, the men in charge. I'm going to hand it over to E. Russell. What's going on, Mr. Russell?
What's going on, guys? What's going on, audience? As always, welcome to the show. I'm hoping to have a good dialogue with you guys today about Detroit reparations. I'm hoping we get to, really get into the nitty gritty of what's been going on because it's been a lot, right?
It's been a lot. But what's Stedman got to say?
I'm glad to be here, man. Glad to have a discussion on this, eventful Juneteenth weekend, new federal holiday, Juneteenth, throwing a bone to the niggas. And so I'm glad to just, get into it,
That's a good point, though. That's the first thing up we got to talk about as we talk about today's subject. Detroit reparations in Detroit are on fire. We got a lot of stuff to get through. We got to talk about all the happenings that have occurred over the past week. But, the biggest headline that hit us a week ago was Juneteenth becoming a holiday. We celebrated Juneteenth together as not only the Freedman Collective, but as, the Freedman Agenda League of Michigan, the bigger organization that we all three happen to also be a part of. So, let's take a few seconds and pay homage to the holiday we just inherited and the day we just celebrated. And I want to just, I want to ask, and I'm going to start with you, Ernest, kind of in your own words, man, what would you say, what does Juneteenth mean to you? I mean, not only what does it mean before the holiday, but what does this holiday mean, if anything at all? Like, what is this? What is Juneteenth?
So for me, Juneteenth, I would say it's really one of those holidays where we can really, take some time to reflect on our lineage. And what I mean by that is, knowing the true story of our lineage, you obviously know the story of slavery. And if you know the story of slavery, then you know about the Civil War and you know about the Emancipation Proclamation. If you know about those things, you should know a lot of other things. But I think a lot of us, we don't know some of the details behind Juneteenth and kind of what made that into a holiday, given the facts that, even during June, even after like June 19th, 1865, there were probably still slaves in Delaware and one other state that I can't remember. But the concept is pure in the sense that, our people endured chattel slavery. And after the Civil War, after we defeated the Confederates and awarded free our people alongside these other Union soldiers, just having that freedom was just amazing to our people. And even though it wasn't full freedom, including rights, it was something else. And, so I just wanted to say, like, when it comes to Juneteenth, for me, it's one of those historical holidays that's tied to our lineage. It's tied to the special field orders that occurred throughout the Civil War. So Juneteenth is specifically holidays that's tied. So Juneteenth is specifically tied to Special Field Orders 3. But whenever I think of Special Field Orders 3, I always think of Special Field Orders 15, which is the 40 and the mule, which was essential to saying after we freed the slaves, now what can we do to make sure they have prosperity in America? I think America dropped the ball there, but we got the holiday.
Yeah, we got it. I mean, but first of all, we got to ask our resident historian too about his opinion on Juneteenth. So, Stedman, what's your position on that, man? What is it to you, and what does this holiday mean, Stedman?
I'm usually very pessimistic about a lot of different things and cynical about different things, but I hope that this being designated a holiday can do something to require schools to actually teach about the atrocities of slavery in some capacity. Overall, I feel like when you look at the holiday in general, I think a lot of it is just, like I just said, throwing a bone to niggas, you know what I'm saying? Hoping that you can get away with telling people not to hold their breath, essentially, on anything coming as far as reparations or HR 40 by, look, we made this a holiday. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I kind of look at Juneteenth, my more cynical side, I look at Juneteenth, kind of like I look at the 4th of July. you know, it doesn't like Frederick Douglass. He has a speech he gave, and he said, like, what is the 4th of July to the Negro or whatever, or what is the 4th to the slave? Right. And Mahershala Ali actually like did a recitation of it, and you can find some clips of it online. But like, that's how I feel about it. Like, okay, so we were formerly free from bondage, but like the story I have told, you know, countless times about my parents' neighbor. Now, here's the clarification my parents got from the guy, right?
Okay.
In 1966 in Mississippi, his family received 11 cents for the year. That was what it was. It wasn't a day's labor. It was a year. For a whole year's time, they received 11 cents. They got a check. And he clarified it to my father. It was for a year's worth of work. In 1966, they received 11 cents. Okay. So, I mean, Juneteenth, Independence Day, no matter what they do, no matter what they call it, until they actually go about providing justice, exacting justice for the descendants of freedmen, for the descendants of chattel slaves. All this is window dressing. It means nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's the same as if you ignore us like you do, because it's empty. It's all empty. In order to show that you really have a dedication to doing something for us, you got to do it. You know, you don't have any more leeway with us. You don't have no more benefit of the doubt. You fucked us over time and time and time again. Now you got to show us, and this ain't it.
And so I will say, you know, I've been very surprised positively with the amount of the opinions that have come out from many people across the country and locally about Juneteenth becoming a holiday. I've been very positively surprised that people immediately got it. They immediately understood not only what it is, but what it's not. And they understood that although Juneteenth being a holiday helps in some regards, in some ways, proliferate our cultural significance in a way that's undeniable, it doesn't serve us in the justice or the real tangibles or any type of reforms or anything meaningful that we really need. I would say that most people that I've encountered understand that we need something specific. We need things that are tangible more so than we need acknowledgement, symbolism, and just a day to be ourselves. We already had a month that they just are barely starting to respect. When we had MLK Day, they are messing around with MLK Day, trying to hijack it for everybody else's use case. Now we got Juneteenth fresh out the box. We don't know what's going to happen over the next 10 years with Juneteenth. We're going to have to adopt it and care for it to make sure nobody hijacks it. But people understood right away that this day is great, but it isn't enough. It isn't nearly enough. So I seen just laymen saying, yeah, but we need reparations. As a matter of fact, the Juneteenth Jubilee that we were at this past weekend, comments on the videos that were posted about Juneteenth Jubilee about a different news outlets immediately jumped into reparations. And no one had shared it and said to the reparationist activists or anybody like that. So people got it immediately. The folks that I've talked to have gotten it immediately. They're like, no, this ain't the move, dog. But, you know, I guess I appreciate it, I guess, you know? Yeah. So, you know, it's, it is what it is. I guess, it is what it is. I mean, so I think the big thing that I took away, at least I said to the news over the weekend, is this: when it comes to Juneteenth, what we got to use this day for is this. Now that we understand Juneteenth is connected directly to slavery without any questions, comments, or concern, we need to enforce that that's the discussion on this day every year at a minimum. So that means that when we talk about corporate America trying to take a day off, y'all need to have the whole listen. And that's part of the problem, though. See, one part of it is that, yeah, we're going to have Juneteenth off, but it also means they don't have to talk about why they have the day off. Not at work in an institution where you can kind of force things on people. They're going to get the school day off, so you don't get to force why they have that off. It's just a day. It can very well be ambiguously given out and never really talked about. That's a dangerous thing. And it leaves a burden on Black America to educate America on why Juneteenth is even a holiday.
But that's the beauty of Juneteenth to me is it gives us the opportunity to do that. So if the job says you can take Juneteenth off, and then if we in these meetings and they saying all of this about Juneteenth, oh, let's talk about Haitian this and Caribbean this, we can force the job to commit to saying, okay, before you guys start to center any other history or any other peoples, recognize what this day is about. And if you can't do that, then it's because obviously you got a problem with addressing the real American history. You know, if white coworkers are feeling guilty to the point where they don't want to let us discuss this or discuss the idea of reparations like that was owed to slaves, that speaks volumes to what we're dealing with.
And this is even like what Adrian is saying in the chat. What you're going to see, I mean, I already saw it. You know, you already saw it. Everybody had a shirt and it said Juneteenth, and everybody's shirt wasn't handmade. You know what I mean? So you're going to look at this the same way companies. Now, I wonder how this is going to conflict with companies trying to do pride stuff, because all these companies changing their logos to pride symbols. You know, for Juneteenth, are you going to change it to something for Juneteenth now, or you're going to have all this Juneteenth commercial products?
They don't have anything.
You know what I mean? And so what's going to happen is at the commercial level, this is going to be opportunity for McDonald's or the NFL or for since basketball season. You know, it's playoffs, but to try to talk about Juneteenth outfits or whatever. I mean, it's going to be, you know, it's really going to just be bullshit.
We got to teach them that Juneteenth is about the shackles. It's about what America did, because yes, it is our celebration of our freedom, but we wouldn't have to be talking about freedom if we were never in bondage to begin with. So we need to have them force the conversation. We need to force the conversation about the bondage and the resulting downhill spiral we've had since. And people say, well, we came uphill, Darvell. We had Black Wall Street, we had Black Bottom, we had Green, we had all these places from one coast to the other almost. So what happened? We got out of slavery, we went uphill, then we go back downhill. What happened, Darvell? Well, that's part of the story, right? Because we should have never come back downhill, but we should have went uphill at a much steeper rate. It should have been more like a square wave, my friend. We should have been given everything we needed, like the 40 acres and a mule, and then had equity to take on land and keep it and start to build our families and everything. Like, you know, be honest with you, the sad thing about the American government is that if we had to receive 40 acres and a mule, that would have been cheaper than what we're asking them for today. Because 40 acres and a mule would have allowed the country to at least continue to grow. But now, if you really talk about handing out reparations, they got to pull everything they got down and start to reconfigure real funding sources, and the Treasury is going to start sweating bullets. Now, it's not like they can't pull the money out like we did for COVID or Corona, but the reality is that it is not a trivial undertaking. It costs you more the longer you wait, just like any interest on any loan. But whatever, Juneteenth needs to be a day of pain in a sense for this country, because they need to be sweat. If there's no other day of the year, we cannot let Juneteenth be a day of just our celebration. It needs to be a day of this country's reckoning.
The real interpretation of Juneteenth is that it finally gave Negroes the ability to partially celebrate the 4th of July, because we started to get some of the freedoms that they celebrate in that. And so, you know, in order to embrace this Declaration of Independence, the concept of the 4th is to understand freedom. And, you know, when slaves got their freedom on Juneteenth, that's kind of what this idea of the holiday and celebrating their freedom was all about, you know, joyous Emancipation Day. So,
yeah. So we celebrated Juneteenth, right, guys? We went out to the Juneteenth Jubilee. This first annual, hopefully annual, I don't know if it'll be annual, but this first event on the Livernois Historic Avenue of Fashion, joined the big event there. And we joined the as a Freedmen Agenda League. Stedman and FAM President Gerard joined into the all-day podcast there and dropped some knowledge about what Juneteenth is, and most importantly, how it connects back to the demand for reparations and transformative justice that our community needs, right? And that is the story of today. We're going to be talking about not only Juneteenth, but how it connects to and justifies reparations. And then we're going to roll that into Detroit. Detroit's got a lot of reparations discussions going on right now, right? We are one of the latest cities in the country to hop on this wave and start talking about trying to institute local reparations, which we know, y'all, local reparations is not necessarily the reparations we need. And we got into that all week long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break to a small clip of the gentleman talking on the Livernois Strip with the podcast live on Juneteenth. And we're just going to hear a little bit of all they said. Right. And yeah, so let me pull that up. Ernest, you got any last things for him or Stedman before I pull this clip up?
Oh, no, I think we can go to the clip personally.
Okay. All right. Let's get it going, guys. Let's get it going. All right. Let's watch it.
That's what we first have to be willing to say. No longer will we put anybody else's justice, health, or safety above our own.
Enough is enough.
No longer.
I don't give a damn. Look, you can have 1,001 Trumps. I would never have voted for Biden.
You hear me?
He showed you what he was.
Okay.
He showed you what he
years.
is.
He showed you what
He
kind of man
showed
he
you
was.
what he was. You think we getting anything out of him? No, we're not.
He told
we,
you.
and we have to be
So
willing to take that loss.
So let me ask you this
Go ahead.
question. Now that we have Juneteenth
Yes.
as a federal holiday,
Yes.
which was put in place with the previous administration, and he's just so happened to be the president to pass it and sign off for it.
Right.
How do you feel, and where were you when you guys first found out about Juneteenth?
I found about it maybe. Was I still in Kenya? I think I was still in Kenya when the Senate passed it. And you know, it was just, to me, it was an empty measure in my opinion.
Okay.
We can't get the George Floyd bill passed. we actually had, was it a year or two ago when they stopped the anti-lynching bill? This damn late.
What's his name? Grand Rapids. Justin Amash.
Yeah.
Okay.
He voted against making lynching a federal hate crime.
Right. Lynching. But then again, we can have
It's a hate crime.
That's what I'm saying.
Ain't nobody just out here lynching stuff just cause.
But we have to understand the framing of that.
Yeah.
We're allowing other people to set the terms for what we consider to be just or not. You know what I'm saying? Even with Justin Amash, everybody, he fought back against Trump. At the same time, he voted because he said it oversteps federal power to make it a hate crime. But who does that hurt?
Right.
And so these are the people. The media would tell you that these monsters who've been monsters, George Bush have been a monster my whole life. And now he's a hero. Now he going on Ellen or sitting down with Michelle Obama and they sharing candy and hugging and holding hands. And he didn't kill a million people. So we have to understand when they're talking to us, who they're paid by and what their intentions are. And we have to be smart enough or courageous enough or ignorant enough of protocol to stand up and say, I'm not going to take it. I need you to walk me through this process because I don't know what's going on.
So, all the time when there is some courageous brothers, it's hard to get our other brothers and sisters to take time to learn about what you're talking about. And then they are afraid to stand up.
Yeah.
How do we address that? How do we try to make a movement or move a movement, and then we need all of us. Then we have to backtrack to bring them up to where they can start understanding the education of this.
Yep.
How do we do that?
I would say it's no different than what happened in the civil rights era, right? Not everybody in the black community was for civil rights. I mean, when Martin Luther King was killed, man, he was one of the most hated men in America, and it wasn't just on the white side. Okay, when King tried to come up into Chicago and desegregate Chicago, the black preachers in Chicago said, hey, get out of here, you messing up, we don't need you here. He got pushed back from many different areas, right? So, I mean, you're always going to have the naysayers. You're always going to have the ones that say, hey, let's keep my head down. We need to do this. Let's not focus on this. I mean, you're going to have that, right?
Uh-oh. How do I get the video out of here? Damn it. My bad, guys. All right. So, listen. We heard a little bit of that, right? You know all about that, Stedman.
Yeah, I just want everybody to see. I keep the same energy, whether it's online or in person. I'm live and in effect. I want to let y'all understand this is really what I believe. This isn't an act. This isn't a show. I'm not trying to pretend. Justice. I support justice for all people. But like I said in the video, my people first. Not my people at the expense of anybody else's people. Not my people, and it stops here. But my people first. My people have been under the foot of every group of people in this nation, except maybe, and this is still true to a very large degree, the Native Americans. You know, even the Native American, the 5 civilized tribes, have had slaves that they treated poorly. The Juneteenth is also has to do with the Native Americans and the 5 civilized tribes.
Yeah.
So we can no longer wait. We can no longer be quiet. We can no longer sit idly by and kind of try to sleepwalk through this process. You gotta wake up.
No, we gotta stop. What are you saying it has to do with the tribes?
Because they had to force them to free their slaves too.
Yeah, they had to force them to free their slaves.
Okay. From that standpoint, okay.
Yeah, the Cherokee. Well, even now though, you can look up now. RT has a documentary about it. The Native American freedmen. It's like the Dawes Rolls, which is so when you look at the tribes in like the Cherokees in Oklahoma, for example, Eastern Oklahoma and all that. Mm-hmm. How they determine who's a tribesman and who isn't by blood. It's not. Yeah. It's by the tribe. The tribe says you're a member of this tribe or not. Yep. And so they own slaves, and so the slaves were supposed to be allowed to be tribes people because they were property of them. Yeah. They don't give them any of the benefits of the tribe, none of the money from casinos, none of this stuff. Right. And they don't give them any of the tribal lineage, even though they're supposed to be by law, by treaty, treated as tribesmen. And when you look at the Cherokee, for example, I picked them, you know, I think the Seminoles is one of them, might be the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, but you can look up the 5 civilized tribes. And they called them that because they took slaves. But they were also infiltrated by Europeans so heavily that when you look at many Cherokees today, they look just like regular white people. Yeah, they do. You know, no, I mean, I'm just saying I get it to that extent. I met Native Americans who didn't know they were Native American. I traditionally had thought I could tell, but you know, that was a child. Yeah, but it's not by blood. So if you go look up historically the $5 Indians, which is where they would pay money like a necessity with the U.S. government, that would give them money to be registered as a Native American. And so you have Europeans. That's why Elizabeth Warren could say, and it be believed by everybody, you know, my such and such was a Native American, and she come back and she's more white than the average white American because it's not by lineage, it's not by blood. You can go get a DNA test today, and if you have a DNA test and you have a certain percentage of Native American blood, they still won't honor you because you're not in their tribe. They don't consider that it's not a blood thing. It's who they allowed to get in. So they created this system where it's a club. It's not a lineage. It's a club. You know, we have a certain club that you can't be a part of, regardless of your lineage. So let's hold that. We got a caller. I want to bring in, see if we can bring in this caller here. Let's see what we got. Hey, caller, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, I can hear y'all. What's going on, fellow Freeman? What's happening, man? It's Gerard.
Hey, it's that cat Gerard. Gerard, what's going on, man? Glad you can hop in on the line with us, my friend.
Yeah, man, I apologize. Today wasn't the day for me to be on camera, bro.
Well, listen, man. It's all good. You know, we showed that clip of you and Stephen getting it in at the Juneteenth Jubilee. Really great event. We were able to lay down some knowledge. There's going to be the full video of that entire interview will be posted to the Freedmen Agenda League YouTube and Facebook this week. And then, of course, the Juneteenth Jubilee will post the entire all-day podcast in the coming week or so. If you didn't catch the live stream, there will be an edited, better version of it that'll be available later in the week or so. But just to give it like a 60-second hit, Gerard, was there anything you wanted to add from, you know, what you expressed at Juneteenth Jubilee about reparations and the connection to Juneteenth before we run into this Detroit thing?
You know, the only thing I wish I would have been able to go further into is to really focus on, you know, June 19th, 1865. We were freed into a worse condition than slavery. That's my opinion about it. We were freed into being homeless. We were freed into being destitute. We were freed into being penniless. And that's been basically our condition as a people, you know, all the way to forward. And if anything we could spin, you know, or I won't even say spin. The reality is that things for our people got a lot worse You know, to me, the second coming of slavery, i.e. through the black codes, peonage, convict leasing, mass incarceration. I mean, it's all forms of bondage, but it just wasn't technically safe. So I wish I could have more focused on that, because that's what has been done since June 19th of 1865 up to current is really, to me, the more harder case for reparations, because we've been shut out of our American citizenship, even though on the books we are American citizens. Yep. And because we were shut out of all the opportunities that this country has set up to create a middle class and to thrive and have a thriving, business class and all those other opportunities and stats and what have you, we weren't ever allowed to fully participate, and now we're in this condition that we are economically, and now it can only be reversed through transformational reparations policy and protections. So I give it that. I'll give the floor back to you guys. I know you got the rest of the show to go. Do you want me to call back or want me to just shut up?
You can hang tight, and I'll just let people know. Okay. The line is open, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. You can call in, throw that code in. You will get some hold music. And when we see you come in, we'll bring you in on the show. You can be on here right alongside Gerard. We got that type of technology, baby. So come on in. We can have multiple callers at once. Don't worry your little heart. But we need to get into this local beat stuff, though, man, because this is serious. First thing I want to make sure we understand from a standpoint of the reparations movement and the movement for Black lives, the definition of reparations is very clear. We have a very rough definition on this show for what reparations are, and here it is on the screen, just so y'all know, because I don't want nobody acting like, oh, what is reparations? Reparations is whatever you make it. No, it is not. Reparations is a multifaceted program. It's a comprehensive set of programs within a bigger program, which fundamentally addresses the socioeconomic disparities at the root of most problems plaguing the Black community today. These disparities include wealth, psychological traumas, environmental deficiencies, education, and anti-Black discrimination. And when you implement these things correctly in the right order with the right amount at each interval, what they will result in at a minimum is the closure of the racial wealth gap. The racial wealth gap will no longer exist when you deal with this in the proper way. That's because the gap should never have existed along racial lines if it were not for slavery, peonage, all the things that Gerard just spoke about that came against us. Our existence in this country would not have a division of parity along the racial lines. So when you try to deal with that, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up having to roll out lineage therapy, racial class protection for the Black community. You're going to have to do serious neighborhood and infrastructure restoration projects in historically Black neighborhoods and in currently Black neighborhoods. You're going to have mandatory historical education that must be rolled out throughout the entire public and private school system, because you can't just run away to a private school and get away from it. You're not going to get you should not be allowed to have a high school diploma if you didn't go through this education that's going to be mandated by the new reparations package. Federally mandated training for all federal, state, and local employees. Anyone who works for the public government, you got to go through a certain set of trainings. There needs to be that national apology. It's crazy that we got Juneteenth as an entire holiday and no apology came with it for the reason the holiday even was necessary. Think about that. Think about that. How you going to write? I'm not even saying that people even want an apology for real, because a lot of people do not believe in apologies that come without, that come under duress. It's like trying to it's like squeezing somebody by the ear and telling them to, scream, mommy, like they're just going to do it to get out of the pain. So a lot of people don't believe in that. But the reality is a national apology. How can you have how can you give us a holiday and not even have apologized for why the holiday is even necessary? Let me not get into that anymore. The other three things I want to talk about, or four things, are HBCU endowment funding. We talked about that briefly in past shows, but people are very much aware that our HBCUs are super underfunded. The endowments look like nothing compared to their white counterparts. Business contract guarantees. The fact is that a lot of these great companies across the country, the bigger companies, have had their hands in the pockets of the government for a long time because they've gotten contractual agreements from the government to provide certain services or products to the government. And the government always delivers on the money and they always buy the goods. So we need those same opportunities for our businesses. But the last two components, and never the least of the components overall, are going to be the ones that everyone always wants to say reparations is only about. And that's the cash. There are two components to the cash, as I like to describe it. There's the cash restitution, which is the punitive damages. And then there's a cash compensation, which is the restoration of the wealth that was stolen, that was diverted. And part of those punitive damages is going to be all the gains that were made on top of the stolen principal that came in the diversion and theft of our wealth. So that's how you deal with the racial wealth gap. You don't just take back what they took. You have to take back what they took, plus all the ill-gotten gains or the interest that they accrued on that stolen wealth. So just be mindful of that, y'all, that this is not just, this is not just a thing where you just kind of walk away from it. Anyway.
Let me just say, I just want to say this last part. So look at how detailed that information was that we just laid out, you see. Darville had this whole slide up with very comprehensive plan for what types of things need to be done that would constitute anything like reparations. So you've got politicians and lawyers, legal scholars and judges and all these people whose job it is. This ain't his job, right? None of this is our job. We all have day jobs. Some of us have night jobs. We do this because this is where our heart is. And he made this beautiful diagram about what reparations must look like. And you got people been arguing at least 30 years, not even willing to give it a vote, about how unfeasible reparations is. This just lets you know that they're operating from a position of pure bad faith. They do give you justice. That's how you got to look at it in those terms. That's how I've had to do. I had to try to minimize and water things down to such a base point that I could not be confused with all the variables. That's when I realized who my enemies were and who had my intentions, my best intentions in mind.
So right? Let me do this. We got a caller that's called in, so I'm gonna move the caller into the room. So get ready and make sure you mute the audio that's around you, caller. We're gonna bring in 9744 into the 9744. I'm gonna bring you in, but
so we got a caller now.
Yeah, we got a caller. We're gonna bring them in. So I'm gonna do that, and then we're gonna see what they're talking about, and then we're gonna move into this Detroit thing here. But you hit a really strong point there, Stedman. I wish that people would understand that this is not that complicated. It's pretty straightforward. It's not that complicated. The United Nations already had this stuff laid out, and the United States has done it before. So this is not something that's like brand new and they don't know what to do and people got to argue about the details of it. No, people just want to argue to try to delay it. Anyway, caller, can you hear us? Uh-oh. 9744, are you there?
Yeah, I can. How y'all doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Yes, we can. How you doing? What's going on?
Oh, okay.
What's your
What up, homie?
Hello?
Yeah, what up?
Hey, what's good? Fry, how y'all doing?
Not too bad.
Well.
Glad you could call in, bro.
Yeah, man, this is Jared from Detroit, man. I'm calling from all over the city, man. I just had a couple thoughts, man. They're a little scattered. Hope y'all could bear with me here. But something, Darvell, you had said, man, about how Juneteenth justifies reparations. Would you double down on that?
Would I double down on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Juneteenth just goes further to say we're talking about something that people want to try to argue whether or not it exists and whether or not it needs to be acknowledged. You can't acknowledge something. This is how I put it. Whenever someone tries to atone for something they've done wrong, especially to our community, they think that they can atone for it by simply stating that they did it, admitting fault, and just walking away from it there. But you got to realize, I don't care if you fixed it back in the 80s, 70s, or back in 1899. For as long as the damage started until you stopped it, there is a trail of destruction that needs to be dealt with. So when you implement Juneteenth today to deal with everything that has happened to us through the beginning of time, through the ending of slavery, to just even acknowledge the ending of slavery, hell yeah, you still owe something. Oh yeah, it makes the case even more clear. But I don't say that Juneteenth as a holiday in and of itself is working towards that goal. I'm saying that Juneteenth being acknowledged doesn't push back against reparations.
I agree with that. I do agree with that partially, and I say partially because I mean, when the dominant group in society creates a holiday for the subgroup being us, I mean, it's kind of like that's the oppressor. This is a way for the oppressor to acknowledge what they did, in a way, to acknowledge slavery and to acknowledge us. And I mean, I don't know how the mass of black people feel about it, but I mean, from what I'm seeing on social media, a lot of people upset. But I'd imagine that the people that they initially spoke to, they kind of licked the boots when the word came out that was what Joe Biden, or I don't know. I'm not as politically abreast as you brothers. So apparently it came out under Trump. That's what the video was saying. That's what the video of Fry and the good brother Gerard were saying, is that it came out under Trump and then was signed under Biden, correct?
Trump
That's what she stated.
Trump did want to make, Juneteenth a holiday, but the Democrat, I guess, underneath Biden, it ended up coming to fruition. But I would say to your point though, with Juneteenth, it's definitely tied to the history, but I don't think if the oppressors brought it forward, if that would be an issue or not, because the question still remains: have we been compensated or restored from all of the shit they did? You know what I mean?
Yeah. With that narrative,
they could pass.
We're definitely not compensated, and it's definitely not we're not reparated with this holiday here. It's for everybody. It's not for us. Everybody gets a day off, and I mean, including us, but it's nothing specifically for us here. It's just that I guess my only beef here is that I'm not disagreeing with you brothers at all. Let me first say that. But when the oppressing group in society, being the dominant group, creates a holiday like this, and they're the ones giving our history back to us, teaching our own history. Yeah. Well, that leaves a lot of room for a lot of bad things to happen. Would you agree?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
If they have control over our story, our narrative like that, and we're not the ones with our fists around it, it can lead to a bad outcome, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and see, and I tried.
That was all I was saying.
Yeah, and that's what I tried to hit at, even in that clip we watched, where I tried to say, we have to control the narrative. We have to take back control, because essentially what you're saying is what I'm afraid of happening, because you allow these companies and these people to set the terms for what not reparations, for what Juneteenth means, what it is, what it looks like, what it's talked about. And so what I hope that we can do as a community, viewers of this show, people who share it, people who we interact with in our personal lives, what we can do is try to be impactful and mobilize everyday citizens, right? To show them that they have a civic responsibility, one, but two, that they also have power in their own individual selves to interject and inject themselves into the process at local levels. You don't always have to have some great, backing or some kind of machine or platform behind you to try to get involved and get engaged in a political process. Sometimes it's as simple as you got to call the media and say, look, this ain't what we're doing. This ain't right. Or this is how I feel. And or maybe you got to stand out in the middle of the street with a bullhorn down by City Hall and just yell until somebody hear you. But just to know that you have an opportunity to say something different, city council meetings, to say something different about the process. And that's what I want to hope that people can see from watching our show. Embolden yourself to get out and get involved.
Yep. So any last words, caller?
I got one other point, and I'll just gracefully bow out and listen to you brothers in this program. But my brother shared a post on Facebook somebody had put up about the holiday and about how if a black person selling Juneteenth T-shirts for $60, and then Walmart selling them for $5, they had said, well, where do you think I'd get my shirt from? And it was kind of like a sarcastic, rhetorical thing, but it was kind of like it's just a commercialization of the history. Like every American holiday is commercialized. I mean, I can't help but think that this will probably be commercialized too. And as far as getting in front of the narrative, I don't really like this whole framework here, because it's not necessarily what most brothers would want, I would assume, as far as at the top of the priority list. But I'll hang up and bow out and just listen. I just want to listen to you, brothers, if that's all right.
More than welcome. Thank you for calling in.
Appreciate you for calling in too, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for calling in, man. And I feel he was definitely on the caller, definitely was on point in regards to what can go possibly wrong with this holiday. You know, being that, look, we don't even know. So as far as the history goes about this holiday coming about, being about, yes, like Stedman said, and like the host that interviewed us, Trump had wanted to, you know, make June 19th a federal holiday. That was one of the things that he was dangling around as something he could do for black folks, right? But somehow, I don't even know who introduced the actual bill in the Senate. I don't think I've even heard of it. Huh?
Right. No, I agree. Like, it came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere. And so here's my opinion or speculation of why did you saw this bill pass out of nowhere. From my understanding, it was 100%. All 100 senators in the Senate voted for it. When it went to the House of Representatives, only 14 didn't vote for it, and that's like, I think it's like a well over 435 to House of Representatives in total. But anyways, this is my speculation behind why it came about. It's to deflect from the criticism that's happening from the Biden administration for their lack of any visible thing that was done specifically for black people. And just like what the caller said, and it seems to be when it comes to us as black folks or freedmen, they always have to include somebody else in the mix when it comes to our repair. The Civil Rights Bill of '64, that was, that's a general non-racial bill. Even though it impacted us, right? But everything is always based towards, what benefits the black people benefits everybody. I mean, even, the whole idea of, okay, when somebody is born here in the United States, we all know, if you're born in the United States, no matter where you're from, you are an American citizen. That was because of the 14th Amendment. That was due to address the issues about us, right? But it ended up benefiting, immigrants that, that come here today, right? Everything that comes with us, we have to benefit everyone else. And it's never, you can't do anything for the freedmen or the descendants, or even the Federal Bureau, the Freedmen's Bureau, right? It was for refugees and freedmen. Who were the refugees? The refugees were the white people in the South that were displaced due to the Civil War, right? It's never ever been solely, hey, we're gonna do something specifically for the freedmen and not be that. But anyways, the caller made a lot of good points. I definitely believe, we have to be on the lookout. I mean, because look what they've done to MLK. I mean, look what they've done to I Got a Dream.
Yeah,
they call it the dreamers.
You know what? That reminds me there, and I want to pivot off of this because we got to get into the Detroit side of this. But yeah. I think that it wouldn't be a terrible idea to have an official organization or just create an organization that's so big and so leveraged or has enough leverage to kind of control the narrative strongly to kind of make sure Juneteenth doesn't get hijacked. Like, I don't know one organization that can kind of control the narrative of what MLK Day is about. but we need something if we can implement anything to help control Juneteenth. Because, you know, we do various things within the community, and what we do within the community is what we do ourselves. But we need the official story, the narrative, and the push for the language around Juneteenth to be highly controlled any way we can. If there is no other experiment or project that someone in the movement or who wants to support the movement for Black Lives wants to get into, this is a good one. And I think that the organizations that we would rely on, like the NAACP, the Urban League, Congressional Black Caucus, even all of them have failed us. They're not anywhere to be seen. They're not doing the right stuff. And so we can't even turn to them. We have to make something new. I'm looking toward my millennial counterparts, my millennial contemporaries out here in Detroit, in Nashville, and Atlanta, all the way out west to LA, Houston. I'm looking to y'all to say, hey, this enough is enough. You're not going to hijack another one of our holidays, especially our very newest federal holiday. So we talked about the Detroit tip. I mean, we talked about June. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say it was introduced by Senator Ed Markey from Massachusetts. It passed the Senate unanimously. Like Gerard said, 14 Republicans voted against it in the House. Ron Johnson, who had been against it in the past, wasn't even willing to critique it right now. And they said one of the big reasons why they were not willing to critique it in any way is George Floyd. So that's it.
Oh, hey, we got a comment. Simone just said she feels like they passed the Juneteenth bill to smooth over the fact that they passed the Stop Asian Hate bill while we were watching Black people getting beat up and killed on a weekly basis. So, like, again, like I haven't even seen them try to really take a lot of credit for this Juneteenth thing, but they're going to try to cash in on it at some point, you know. They're going to show them, we passed Juneteenth. What you want from us?
Even Republicans.
Did Kamala say anything about it?
No, she ain't doing nothing that just benefit Black people. So
yeah, I guess she stayed out the way then. When the camera popped up, she stayed out the way. She wasn't even with the Black senators and Congress people when they signed it, was she?
Nope.
Why? No, she wasn't. Go pull up a picture. Check that. I might be wrong. If she wasn't even with them, y'all should know better. If she wasn't even with them, but you already said that. You right, Stedman. Let me shut up.
Oh no, she was there. She was there.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, she was there. She was there. She was in the background. She was there.
Let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this Detroit Reparations.
Man, I'll tell you what. All right, so we done got all base here. All right, so here's the deal, y'all. And I'm going to be leading on Gerard's knowledge as well. I'm glad you called in on this. So here's the deal, y'all. So there's been a surge in discussion about reparations specific to Detroit. There's been a big surge. And over the past couple weeks, the activities of groups have come to light. There's been a petition that's been circling around, specifically in Eastern Market, to try to get enough signatures to get a reparations commission or committee put on the ballot. There's also been a push from City Council to get something that recently came afoot, and Mary Sheffield spoke on that. And there's also been not only the city charter, but there was a gentleman. So hold on, let me back up. So the city charter, that's Prop P, right? Make sure I get that right. It has a reparations committee or a what is it? Well, let me go and check the language. It's got like a reparations task force on it. So if that charter is passed, it will bring a reparations task force into fruition for the city. That's one avenue that's come up. Another avenue that has come up has been a petition that was initially started by Keith Williams that went around, and that petition was picked up then by Mary Sheffield, I believe, and someone else. Who's that lawyer? I should have his name.
Todd Perkins. Todd Perkins is the head of Todd Perkins.
Todd
is not
Perkins.
over it now.
My mic was muted. Yeah.
Perkins, man, it's just so many players. I got to get all these straight, y'all. I'm not a reporter. Please excuse me.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
All right, so we had him, and no, it was Perkins and who's my man? Black Democratic Caucus.
Keith Williams.
That was Keith Williams. Right.
So it started with Keith Williams.
Started with
somehow
with
the Mary.
Yep.
And then Mary appointed Todd Perkins to be like leading it. But then also she has, like you said, it's like three different avenues approach. One is the petition, Proposal P, which is through the charter, the new Detroit charter. That's going to be on the ballot in August. And in August, And then also Mary Sheffield got approval by she introduced a bill. I don't know if that's the right thing to say. Bill ordinance is the city government, right?
Right.
She introduced something in the city government because she's the councilwoman over District 5, and there's 9. I believe there's 9 council members total, and unanimously they approved her resolution. Please forgive my language exactly, but they approved her resolution to also create a reparations committee. But we don't know what the language of that body or that committee would be. So there's like 3 different things that are going on simultaneously of trying to create some sort of Detroit reparations committee that would then take tax revenue from cannabis sales to be used as reparations for Detroiters.
So
right.
Question. Then you said one of them was the petition with Proposal P, right? And then the other was through Mary Sheffield and the council. And then what's the difference between Mary Sheffield's and Keith Williams, or the third one?
Well, Keith Williams, I believe. So right now, that's a petition. So so a petition is when this will be like citizen put on, right? Citizen would get put on the ballot. So obviously, it won't be able to get on this ballot in August. I think it's too late for that. I believe it's too late. Then it will be November's. So, so as you know, the citizens can petition the government for something to happen outside of like the council or the mayor proposing it, right? So it'll be coming from the citizens, so to speak. But this is really being led by Keith Williams, who's the head of the Detroit Black Caucus, Democratic Black Caucus.
Yeah.
So it's going through him. So it's like 3 different ways that this committee can come out. At the end result is a committee that will be using marijuana funds to, quote unquote, give reparations to Detroiters. That's the end result. But like either all 3 of them are going to be simultaneous. Could get us to that end result, or multiple get us to that end result.
And I want to reiterate a point that I made in the previous show to this, the last show we did before this. It is ridiculous to have an 80% plus black city paying reparations to its black residents for violations, human rights or civil rights violations that it did not commit. Now, if Detroit happened to just have all this money sitting around, I mean, it would definitely be a different story. We'd be talking about a completely different situation.
Yep.
But it doesn't. Continually we're talking about how Detroit doesn't have revenue. And so one of the things, the issues, every state, every city, every place that they've passed marijuana, recreational or whatever, they tried to use it as some kind of cash cow. Personally, I have no problem with people smoking. My personal belief is you should legalize it if it's adults, want to use it, whatever. But at the same time, you have to understand as well that whatever age you're given is contingent on people picking up this habit, and so it's you know what I'm saying? It's like if you were to say, we're gonna pay for schools through prostitution. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's legal or not, we still need to understand the social consequences.
In Ohio, that's literally part of the funding scheme for the schools is the lottery.
Right.
A lot of states do that. A lot of states.
Same here.
And that's
how they try to justify it. Yeah.
Like we're betting on vices.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. And like the commenter saying in the chat, we've talked about this extensively. The federal government has to do this. The city of Detroit can't do this. You expect me to believe they filed for bankruptcy 5 years ago and now they're going to be paying reparations, bro? Shut the fuck up.
So to that point, didn't Mr. Duggan hop up on the stage or somewhere and write down, like, if we implement this charter, this Proposal P is going to bankrupt the city? But I mean, I'm not saying, let's back up though. Let me back up though. Proposal P has a lot of stuff in it. I mean, other things besides a reparations task force. the reparations task force isn't spending money inherently. I don't think. I think it still has to get whatever they want to do to hand back some money to the people. Got to get approved on its own. But this just establishes the task force to devise the ideas and to do the research to justify the ideas, right? So,
sound like the general picture is that city reparations is extremely limited in what it can do. And the solutions to fund reparations all revolve around the taxpayer increasing their spending in certain areas for that funding to occur. That's the gist.
Or diverting already existing tax money.
Right.
You know, either we're gonna tax a new revenue source or divert already existing taxes to reparations. It doesn't make any sense because again, this taxes are literally coming from the people. So it makes no sense at all. How can that be considered reparations? This is money they would be getting any doggone way in some form or fashion.
Not to mention though, what about people who left Detroit because of, for example, eminent domain that tore up Black Bottom and Paradise Valley? You see what I'm saying? What about the people who left Detroit and had to move to Inkster, for example, or left the state as a product of the oppression they felt at the hands of national policy? Okay, this was still national policy, right? This was protection from national policy. It wasn't like Michigan or Detroit was just enacting some kind of, authoritarian policy absent of the federal government. You know what I mean? Right. When you look at the whole process of putting the freeways in with Eisenhower had to know that eminent domain would be used to create these freeways. And they systematically put freeways in every Black community in the country, right through it. You know what I'm saying? This is a federal problem. They're the only organization or entity or body who can create the revenue at will to address this issue. Not the state, not Detroit. Fucking Detroit. Come on.
So to the point. So we're gonna look at the document I have pulled up, right? But to that point, the essence is this: when you talk about reparations, and I spoke earlier that it has to close the racial wealth gap. Sandy Darity's made that clear. He pushed that to the crew on the HR 40 bill and told them everything they needed to know and everything they were supposed to do that they didn't do. But you have to close the racial wealth gap, or otherwise this is pointless. So you cannot close that gap unless you do two things. One, you have to give us enough wealth injection to move us up on that graph. And you also should be taking back something from those who gained from ill-gotten methods that harmed us. You need to pull their line down and you got to pull ours up. That's how you're going to close it. And ideally, if you talk to some of the people who activated us in this movement, they tell you the thing should flip. We should be on top if you really start doing some heavy duty math. Now, with that being said, you need the federal government that's going to have the ability to reach across state lines, that's going to have the ability to have the jurisdiction to start to levy fines, taxes, penalties, and whatever is necessary against some of these ridiculous conglomerate US-based white corporations or some of these huge families that have benefited directly from slavery, oppression, underpayment of Black people, theft of Black land, whatever you want to say, however they did it. If you need to take it back, you're going to need the federal government to do it, right? So the other thing is, let's look at what happened in Detroit so far. So what we have on the screen right here is the petition that we've been talking about that's been handed out, that's been going around. It says Detroit Reparations Committee, and I'll make this bigger for the folks who are watching. And so if you look at this Detroit Reparations Committee, and this is what people may have signed in Eastern Market, and the question says, should the city of Detroit establish a reparations committee? Should the city of Detroit establish a reparations committee to oversee the creation and development of a reparations fund, to make recommendations for funding allocations to housing and economic development programs that address historical discrimination against the Black community in Detroit? And then it allows people who are residents of Wayne County in Michigan to sign, which already out the gate, this petition is no good if you are not being specific to people of Detroit when you say they can sign this. It says people who are registered electors, qualified and registered electors, residents of Wayne County within the state of Michigan can sign this. No, it needs to be limited to people who are residents of Detroit at a minimum. So that's one way to get you, because there's a bunch of people running around flipping Eastern Market who aren't even living in Detroit. Now, here's the thing. There's another part to that form that people were signing. This should have been on the back, or it should have been somewhere in immediate vicinity. This is exactly what is being adopted when you sign this, right? This is the ordinance amending portions of the city code to codify a reparations committee. And so this goes into section 51, just to be clear, talks about the purpose of the committee, and it talks about the membership. And here's the problem with here's one of the problems with this that's really a big issue. The issue is that the mayor is the one who's appointing people to this committee. Y'all love the mayor of the city of Detroit, right? Y'all love him, right?
Boo, boo, boo.
And you know what?
Yeah.
This has the same problem as HR 40, because HR 40 allows the president to put a bunch of people on there. If HR 40 had a pass with Trump on there, boy, we would be in the water dead. That's why HR 40 needs to be rewritten. That's why this little ordinance proposal needs to be rewritten. Right? It's no good.
So Darvell, since you got that up, I just want to make sure. It's supposed to be 7 people on the committee, right? 7 members.
Yep.
And all of them, like all of them are appointed by the mayor. It's not like, maybe 3, 2, 4, 1 or something. You mean all 7?
So after you go through the requirements of how you become a committee member, which are laid out in section 51-2, 51-3, which dictates the terms of committeeship, says committee members are appointed to 3-year terms by the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council. So it seems that the mayor appoints, the city council has to approve it.
So it's basically a who's who. Everybody who's connected to Detroit politics, to Wayne County politics, to Michigan politics, who's a Democrat, who, plays ball, is going to be on this panel. The people have no oversight, no community oversight, no ability to interject or inject into this process. This is bad. This is bad. These are signs when something is going wrong, or when something is created or built improperly, when there are no safeguards, no checks and balances for the people, not institutional to those inside of the system, for the people. This is let you know this is a problem. This is how you know this bullshit right here. 7 people the mayor likes, that city council like. I ain't never met the mayor, and I ain't never met a council member, so I can't be on the panel.
Right.
My opinion ain't valid. Darvell, Graf ain't valid.
It don't even have an application process like the African American Advisory Council for the state had. Remember that? That's another game we got to get into.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother game. And Stedman, we're gonna get into it even harder when we talk about the other proposal that's part of the problem.
Look at point D for the membership. That's the immigration pool right there.
Appreciate the diversity of viewpoints and experiences that exist within Detroit's Black communities. That's what they're looking for. Well, they better say it's Detroit's Black community. So there are some loopholes in here, though. You got to be like, have experience living or working in predominantly African-American neighborhoods or communities in Detroit. You got to have experience.
What does that mean?
That means that you can't, listen, nothing. Does anything here say you need to be Black?
No.
So what that means is you can work for Rocket Mortgage. You can work for Rocket Mortgage and you qualify.
Yeah.
You coming in from Novi or Northville.
Good people could be working for Rocket Mortgage who can really bring impact to this committee.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you coming from Novi or Northville or Walled Lake, right? Mm-hmm. You work in the predominantly African American Detroit, and now you on the panel. You might be great. You might need to be an advisor in some capacity, But that's not what we're talking about. That's just as bad as allowing people who not in the city to sign a petition. Just because you work downtown, you got say on what goes on with reparations.
I know a guy. Here's what this is what this also does. I know a guy who runs a farm, a white guy, real good guy, runs an urban farm in Detroit. Detroit is a majority black city, therefore, pretty much anywhere you live within city limits is going to be an African-American neighborhood. You could get away with that. That's if they even enforce that, right?
Which you have no way of knowing.
My man's
no safeguards, no check and balances. The mayor's friends and the council's friends.
We're going to talk about friends, man. We're about to talk about some friends. Okay. So, and there's another thing.
First paragraph, man. Hold on. First, here's it right here. You don't even have to be a Detroiter. Listen what it says. The committee holding that first paragraph. Go back, scroll to the left, man.
Okay.
That where it says you got to be a resident or a business owner.
All right.
You can be a business owner and not. You could be a business owner and not live in Detroit.
So Gilbert's, Illich's, what's the other? Marty Moran and his family. The family. What's the garbage? The people with the garbage. Who else?
GM.
You know what I'm saying? The Fords. Who else?
Oh man, yeah, they gonna be on that committee, boy. They gonna be up in there.
Preskeys.
Anybody who trying to rub some elbows, bro.
Yeah.
They better listen. Here's my litmus test. Here's a litmus test for you. I don't know if he would ask to be on the committee or if he would accept the nomination, but Jamon Jordan, well-known historian who studies and focuses on, Detroit. He's advised movies that set themselves in Detroit. If he ain't on here, I don't know.
That Detroit movie.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh. Ooh, hold on. Well,
1967.
Did he do 67? I gotta look. I don't remember. But so that's a good point, Gerard. Now, here's the other one that kills you. This is what we was talking about, y'all, right here. Point 51.6, local reparations fund. The Detroit reparations plan shall be funded through the local reparations fund, which shall be funded by a certain percentage of revenue collected and received by the city of Detroit from the Michigan Marijuana Regulation Fund. The certain percentage of revenue allocated to the fund to fund the local reparations fund shall be determined by the reparations committee or by the reparations committee and shall be approved by the city council, but shall in no event be less than 20% of the revenue collected and received by the city of Detroit from the Michigan Marijuana Regulation Fund.
So is the other 80% going to serve as an endowment?
That's a typo, bro. That's supposed to be committee, and they put committee. That's a damn typo. They didn't get it.
It says marijuana.
Well, it could. Yeah. But I mean, even that. So what's going on? What's going on with the other 80%? If you just got to share a minimum of 20, what's going on with the other 80%?
Bro, business as usual, dog. We ain't really trying to do this.
You see what I'm trying to say? Now, I would even be willing if they said, look, we're going to use this marijuana money just to create low-income housing in Detroit. If we were to create programs for residents of Detroit, job programs or something, that would be fine. Don't call the shit reparations.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Call it a work program. Call it a housing program. Call it an educational program. Do not call it reparations because that's not what it is.
First step.
At the very least, it's not the reparations that we think about when we hear that word.
No. We talked about what reparations is supposed to be, y'all. We said that before we got into this, so don't get confused. It ain't what this is on the screen. Anyway, we gotta get off of this one because we gotta talk about what else happened, yo. So this right here was garbage, right? We got all sorts of problems in here. So let's get that off the screen. We don't need to see that no more. Now, there's something else, right? There was the new city ordinance that's up for a vote, right? The city charter, right? Or rather, the charter commission, what they got up. They got something different.
Proposal P.
Prop P. We're going to talk about Prop P.
Yeah, Prop P.
Prop P is approving. I'm going to share it, but Gerard, Prop P is approving the entirety of the revised charter, right? Which includes the task force for reparations in it.
Right. So a charter for any municipality is basically like the Constitution of the United States or the state constitution, right? It's the law of the land. It's the law of how that it's the basis of how that municipality will operate. It sets all of the principles of who's going to be who, what's on the mayor, his terms, all of this type of stuff, as you can see. So that's what a charter is for those who are unfamiliar with that term. A charter is like basically the organizing document behind the city or the township or whatever municipality it is. So this is like the Detroit Constitution, if you can imagine that, put it in that terms.
Right. Okay. Thank you for spelling that out for the people. I know some people who needed to understand. So you see a copy of it on the screen, y'all. The lovely city of Detroit, Michigan, charter of the city of Detroit. This was a draft submitted for review by the governor.
Pause.
Yeah.
Let's petition the city to put afros on the seal. We tired of these ladies. They don't represent the city no more. We want representation. That's what's important. We want the ladies on the seal to have afros and darker skin. That's important.
They're gonna have to change the spirit.
Representation matters.
They're gonna have to change the spirit of Detroit.
Let me see.
Give him an afro too. Give the spirit of Detroit the afro too. That comb over shit. That swoop-de whoop ain't working no more. Give him some cornrows. Give him cornrows or give him dreads.
Where Trick at? Trick that? Well, not Trick Daddy. Trick supposed to have fixed that. Where he at? Man, I'm putting an afro on this. I can't do that. They're gonna get me. They're gonna be like, you defaced our stuff, Darvell. You're gonna need to leave.
That's what my little sister always say. Put an afro on it.
Well, all right. Y'all don't see what I'm doing, but it's not nice. All right. All right, so let me go in here. So we're gonna scroll through here. It just explains the preamble. We, the people of Detroit, do ordain and establish a charter for the governance of our city as it addresses the needs of all citizens and affirms our commitment to the development and welfare of our youth, our most precious treasure, instituting programs, services, activities addressing the needs of our community, fostering an environment and government structure whereby sound public policy objectives and decisions reflect citizen participation and collective desires, pledging that all our officials elected and appointed will be held accountable to fulfill the intent of this charter and hold sacred the public trust, acknowledging our blessings from God. We pray our efforts be accepted. And so it just declares some rights and some stuff at the top of it. But we're going to jump to a different section here. We're going to go to my bookmarks. That's not bookmark. This is a bookmark. We're going to this part. Bloop 7, executive branch program services and activities. We're going to hop down here to section 702, task force on reparations and African American justice. Sounds tasty. Task force establishment. There is established by this charter's enactment. There is established a permanent Human Rights Commission task force on reparation and African American justice to study, investigate, report on, and address through reparations the involvement, facilitation, complicity, and culpability of the city of Detroit in relationship to the slave trade. In relationship to the slave trade, institutions of slavery, institutional and structural racism, and discrimination against enslaved Africans and their descendants. The role and impact of the conduct of the state of Michigan and the United States in facilitating, endorsing, legitimizing, or otherwise enabling the city of Detroit may also be considered to the extent applicable. The task force shall operate under the supervision and direction of the Human Rights Commission. The task force shall be established within 180 days of the adoption of this charter and shall receive all the necessary funding necessary to exercise its powers and accomplish its duties and obligations under this charter, and may accept private and public donations. The work of the task force shall be made public upon completion. The Human Rights Commission will provide an initial report of the task force's findings within 1 year of its establishment and an updated report no less often than on a biannual basis. So just right there, this is going to be under the Human Rights Commission task force, or the Human Rights Commission. They said it's under the Human Rights Commission. And they are already talking about specificity in here. Well, at least that's the idea of the research they're going to do, right? The research has specificity of descendants of freedmen. But here's where it gets a little different, right? It says that the task force members shall be nominated by the Human Rights Commission for City Council's approval at one or more public meetings. The members of the Human Rights Commission selected from the 7 non-at-large districts shall be ex officio members of the task force. Members may be non-residents when necessary to acquire particular expertise, experience, or skill set. And all members shall be individuals who are especially qualified to serve on the task force by virtue of the education, training, activism, or experience, particularly in the field of African American studies and reparations justice, including but not limited to these things. So they allow people from outside the city. I guess in extenuating circumstances is kind of what they're alluding to. But there's nothing here that substantiates that they have to be from the city under any other condition. It didn't rule that out and didn't make an exception. It just stated that, you know, they might be from outside the city.
Just to interject, because they're still talking about understanding the feasibility of reparations and Detroit's role in the slave trade. So let's say Detroit was the king of slavery back when, let's say it was the number one institutional stronghold for slavery in the United States of America. What difference does that make now? Just like this used to be this cartoon, David Banner had it. I think it only ran for like one season or two on Adult Swim on Cartoon Network. It was called The Crooked Sip. And the whole joke was like, it was these black people in Mississippi, and they had like this white family who used to be like slave owners and stuff, and they was rich and they live in this big mansion, but like now they all poor and stuff after slavery was over, and like the sister be banging all the black characters on the show, and it's like, what difference do it make now? You could say, okay, this white family committed these atrocities, owned all these slaves, XYZ, but if they're broke now, what difference do it make if you find out that they're the number one most responsible single-handedly for the institution of slavery in this country? That's why you need the federal government. Maybe these people have legitimately, they have good intentions. I don't believe most politicians have good intentions under any circumstances. That's the cynical part. I believe they're all self-serving. It's an election year, and they all want to show, hey, we can, we're doing this. Detroit been a black city since the 70s. Okay. Y'all could have been talking about reparations or looking into it. What makes it so feasible now?
Well,
it's not feasible.
That's that is part of the thing that we got into about it when we were talking offline, is that the individuals involved in this all stand to gain something politically. There is no activist that we've seen running around talking about this full-throated. This has come up from a purely political careerist nucleus. Like they got it written by somebody who may have been somewhere in the know, but I don't think that they have real people. Like, the wind is not at their back. And you know why it's not at their back? Because we would know about that.
It seems to me like because Joe Biden is not flexing any muscle to get HR 40 revised or passed or brought to the floor for a vote, he's trying to get every Democratic state or city to try to do it on their own or go through those motions to take the heat off of them. Well, the city's doing it. You don't need, and if people don't know that the federal government is the only body who can do it, who can actually do the shit we need done, then you say, well, Detroit is doing it, Evanston is doing it, and neither of those is reparations, and neither of those deals with the issue.
So let me read this statement here. This is kind of crazy. Duties and powers. The duties and powers of the task force shall include, but are not limited to, the following, which may be expanded as set forth below to the extent not inconsistent with these duties and powers. Number 1, determine the role of the city of Detroit in the slave trade, including identification, compilation, and synthesization of evidentiary documentation of the support of the institution of slavery in the city of Detroit, including but not limited to the capture, transport, sale, acquisition, and treatment of African slaves in the city of Detroit. My position is this, y'all. Yes. Every city has a role in this. And yes, they all have a little bit of research to do. But as Stedman has shown here very clearly and said very clearly, they're not the ones to pull the trigger on this. They're not the ones to be presiding over any significant amount of money or processes to enable and carry out reparations, but they should have a task force to help with distributed efforts of research to support the findings of this entire federal task force that HR 40 is supposed to create. That still doesn't exist. That's been on a bill that's been in Congress or Senate and in the House in a chamber for what, 20 years?
33.
Yeah,
30.
30 something.
So listen, this is go ahead, Gerard.
So yeah, and I agree with you, man. Like all that can really come out of a local or state study, because that's California is the one we know is the only state that I know of that's doing it on the state level, right? This is proposing it on the city level, city state. All it could do is get, in my opinion, would be to, like you said, study that information, and then at the end of the day, it should say, and we should charge this to the United States Department of Treasury.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that should be the end result. Like we went and we gathered all of the evidence of how the federal laws that allow for this activity to exist. And to me, we focus, slavery is one part of it, but hey, talk about how much redlining, because that came from the federal government. Talk about how much that impacted the money of Black Detroiters or Black Michiganders, and how much discrimination and union jobs and so on in the construction industry. See, this is the stuff that's right now. They can't deny that. You can talk about slavery all day long, and everybody say, well, I own slaves. But no, you could definitely talk about how my grandfather came up here from Mississippi in the 1930s, and he freaking had to retire in a foundry, and he died young. He died at the age of freaking 60-something because he worked in the foundry, because that's the only place that as a Black man that you could work at Ford was at one of these, and these jobs that none of the white people wanted. You know what I'm saying? And he died early. How much money he would have been able to, if he was able to live on his retirement, so on and so forth. How Inkster was formed. Inksters were formed for where all the Black workers would work when they created the Rouge plant. How that impacted. No loans going into Black predominant areas in Ecorse and River Rouge and Inkster and all these different areas. Where see, that's more important. Goddammit. That's where we at. That's what that happened to our grandparents and subsequently to our parents and to us. That's in the real now. So yes, slavery happened, and I'm for it. But at the end of the day, and even so, we have to say, okay, the bill goes to federal government. But it'd be good for the locals, obviously closer to the ground, you got more of that information and documentation from a research level, right? But that's all I can see a local reparations commission or a state commission being positive and doing is getting the information and laying it out. And this be repeated all throughout United States where predominantly Black people were located. Right. I don't know if we need to do all 50, but yeah, that's to me is the only positive thing that could come out of doing a local or state regional task force on, about all of this. And
yeah. And I want to just, it was a comment earlier, and I wanted to hit on this a couple times, and I didn't, but a person brought up how they're trying to attack critical race theory all in the media. Adrian, he posted it earlier. I don't even know if he's still watching. But this all ties into that. Our whole show is just critical race theory. Whenever you hear in the media, they say, oh, critical race theory, you see these interracial couples and all this shit, and Black people with their kids talk about critical race theory don't make you a racist. That's not what it is. Critical race theory is this show. It's any show like ours that tries to understand the condition of Black people from a full point of view. That's all it is. It's looking at it's a factor of critical theory, classical critical theory, and it looks at this in totality. How did this happen to be? What were the systems and situations that caused this to happen? XYZ. That's all this is. So anybody who says critical race theory is making people racist or making people feel like racist, that's no different than somebody saying wearing a seatbelt causes accidents. That's not the case. Or doing a diagnostic exam on a car makes the car fall apart. You see what I'm saying? This is all the critical race theory is what our show is about. The whole trying to understand the condition of black people and the systems of power that oppress us and people like us in this country and all around the world. That's all it is.
So let me share some. So we got to kind of, where do we put the boots to the ground on this, right? So boots to the ground on this. Look at the screen. We are on the official website for the City of Detroit Government Charter Revision Commission. This is the group that made this revision that we just talked about, right? This is their official page where you can submit revision requests, this, that, and the third, and it announces who they are. So here are the members, okay? Offline, the team here have already discussed some of these individuals who are on this revision commission, some of the names you might know. There are some good people, and then there are some not so good people. I'm not saying that people are bad. I'm saying based on what we know, track record wise, you know, what is their position? What is their ideology? What do they think in terms of black uplift? And, you know, some folks running around here who, you know, still believe we're going to do it all alone. And there are some people running around here who are really, you know, playing Oreo games. You know, just, you know, what I said months ago, I said black people in America only ascend today using white ladders. And you know, the people who are for the people and who've been on the ground and they fighting and they trying to get the city right. And then you know the people who are just grifters, who are just out here trying to catch a bag or trying to catch some clout so they can continue to move up. I'm not going to say too much, but these are some folks that you can talk to. And this is the page you can go to if you don't agree with what they have in this revision proposal.
Yeah,
Now,
there's only 2 men on there, man. 2 men out of 9. There's only 2 men on there out of 9.
Oh, it's a great question. I see Quincy. But you know, in Quincy, isn't that a gender neutral name? I don't want to get it wrong.
Well, I mean, to be fair, in today's time, you can't really, you know.
Quincy and Richard. Yeah, but you're right. You're right, though.
And I mean, out of respect, I'm not trying to, you know. I mean, it is, you know, but I mean, you don't know.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Quincy and Richard. If you know, so. But that's the commissioners. Now, we talked about the state level, right? And I keep harping on this because I think that FAM, the organization, understood the criticality of something that came up last year. And that's this Black Leadership Advisory Council. So what we just looked at was the Charter Revision Commission membership. Those individuals who are responsible for the city charter, City of Detroit, who have put this task force on reparations on the charter proposal that is Prop P. We just looked at them, but now we're looking at something from the state level. We're looking at Governor Gretchen Whitmer's office, the appointment she made to what she's called the Black Leadership Advisory Council. Now, what is the Black Leadership Advisory Council, Darvell? Well, the Black Leadership Advisory Council is a group that will act in an advisory capacity to the governor, and they will develop, review, and recommend policies and actions designed to eradicate. Look at that word. Do I need to zoom in on this word, Stedman? Eradicate. Let me go.
Yeah, do it.
Where is it? They did recommend policies and actions designed to eradicate and prevent discrimination and racial inequity in Michigan. Racial inequity. Let me, because I don't want to be like this, but listen. Racial inequity in Michigan is socioeconomic inequity. That means money. That means wealth. So when we go in and we start talking about racial inequity, we cannot listen. If they don't come out talking about reparations from this commission here, this task force she got put together, if they not talking about reparations, they ain't doing their job. Ain't no other way to get rid of it. I'm just gonna say that straight. No chaser. So we now got this state level, this state level group advising the governor on how to eradicate racial inequity in Michigan. They're going to identify laws and gaps in state laws. They're going to collaborate with the governor's office and Black community. They're going to serve as a resource for community groups. They're going to promote cultural arts and provide other information or advice, taking other actions are requested.
So the problem here is the same as the Detroit one. where our interests won't truly be recognized in this task force or commission, just off of the simple fact of the people who've been selected to lead it.
And you got to be well connected.
Yeah, not all Black individuals with the interests of our community. So that's one of the battles right there.
So that's the state level, y'all. And who we got on here, just to be clear. Again, we're not throwing shade yet, but what I am saying off the rip, y'all, is that there's only really one solution to this question. And if they don't come back with that solution, then they ain't really about this life. So listen, who's from the Metro Detroit area? You got Justin here. Oh, on Winnu. We got who else? We got Donna Bell in Southfield, Joel Rutherford in Warren. Is that Sadie Sarr in Detroit? Rochelle Riley, Detroit. That's Michelle Samuels, right? I'm pronouncing that right.
Mm-hmm.
Farmington Hills, another Michelle Sorry Robinson, West Bloomfield, and we got a really good comment. How long this task force been in effect?
Since last year, 2020, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to see when did they start their stuff. Where they meeting minutes at, man?
Last year we had to look at that. I guess I got an email from the government. It was last year.
Where's this is an appointment, but I think they should have like a site. They should. This is an appointment announcement. I thought. Where is the actual? Let me see. I'm looking for. Oh, here it is. I found it on another page. I'm looking for their notes. I'm looking for their meeting minutes. Those should be public, right?
Yeah, it should be.
Oh, here it is. The latest news. Wait a minute. Hold the hell on. Hold on, y'all. Let me show y'all this. They seem like they on the job right now, or not. I'm gonna ask. I'm not trying to be one though. So latest news, a message from the Michigan Black Leadership Advisory Council on voter suppression. Statement from the Michigan Black Leadership Advisory Council on COVID-19 protocols and vaccine hesitancy in the Black community. Announced appointments, proclaims January 19th as a day of racial healing. The governor and lieutenant governor recognize Black History Month. Duke University study, the Governor Whitmer's coronavirus task force on racial disparities, making lasting structural change. A statement and then a message. Where's their work? What have they done? They made messages. Did they tell us about reparations yet?
No, you ain't getting no suggestions like that. You gotta look at, they were selected by Whitmer and other folks in her circle. So, these people are already democratically aligned.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. Members of the Michigan Black Leadership Advisory Council assert that the right to vote is the most sacred foundation of American citizenship, but that right is under attack by elected officials here in Michigan and nationwide who are seeking to suppress voters. This vicious attack was a result of robust Black voter turnout in the 2020 presidential election in Michigan and other states, votes that were a repudiation of voter suppression. Election audits have proved that the election was fair, but members of the Michigan legislature have introduced 39 bills that, if adopted, would lead to disenfranchisement of all Michiganders, especially Black voters, in future elections. The bills claim to solve problems that do not exist. For instance, they would empower election officials to remove or prohibit drop boxes, et cetera, about election suppression. And I guess this group, the Black Leadership Advisory Council, they go by the acronym BLAC now. Black. Yeah, they Black.
Yeah, but you can tell they being intellectually dishonest because it's been a whole bunch of reparations news, and the fact that they haven't touched upon or covered one just reveals the true intention.
Yeah, I was gonna say better than day before said stop looking. There's nothing, no thing. So I was gonna say that they said there's nothing to look for when you was there scrolling. And then the second thing is now. If you telling me that this bill disenfranchises everybody in Michigan from voting, don't that seem like that would also affect their voters too? Like, come on now. If If that's the case, then we all fucked. It don't matter.
Look at this.
I mean, we would.
Go ahead. What the hell? They got a website? What is this? Oh, nothing. Sorry. Go ahead. What were you gonna say? Were you about to say something, Ernest?
No, I wasn't about to say anything.
Oh, well.
I think from the state level, though, we got the right idea that we would need this type of commission or a task force established on the state level, similar to California, to begin these talks of allowing greater discovery that can occur at the state level, versus at a single city level.
Right.
That's the only piece.
No, you hit it right there, man. That's the point of this segment that we're talking about. This black, they had to go get, ain't nobody even heard of black other than the magazine. Why y'all even do that? Why y'all even bother? They should just say the advisory council.
But they don't, it's like they don't understand that every time they do something and it's so manicured and so perfect that it turns people off when it comes to politics. That's why Trump was popular. It wasn't just everything he said, well, oh man, he's a racist and everybody who voted for him is a racist. People like the fact that he appeared to be a genuine article. Everything is manufactured. One of these articles I posted in the chat when it's talking about Candace Owens. Some black conservatives who have some bones to pick with Candace Owens said it's just like looking at the Fresh Prince. If Will and Carlton are both conservatives, Carlton can go to certain places and talk, but he can't go to places Will can go to talk. And he said, we need to stop propping up Carlton as an image for black conservatism. And that's essentially what we're talking about with this instance. You keep trying to act like the black people that they like, that's what they keep doing. The black people they like, the black people that toe the party line sufficiently on both sides of the aisle, they prop them up. An average everyday black person cannot relate to you. We cannot relate to what you're talking about. We can't relate to what you're doing. You don't understand what we're dealing with on a daily basis. It is off-putting. It's not endearing. It's off-putting. It's strange. It's weird.
So to close this out about this state nonsense that's been going on, if you're on this page, guys, wait a minute, is this not updating? I'm on the wrong tab. If you're on this page, you see at the bottom of this page, this announcement, it says subscribe for updates right here. If you click on subscribe for updates, y'all, it's going to take you to another page. And I'm going to put that page right here. It's going to take you to Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity email updates. Come in here and put your email in here, y'all. I want you to get on this list to get updates from the Black Leadership Advisory Council, so we can watch and see what the hell they doing. Because they should be watched and they know they're supposed to be watched, but don't nobody really know what they doing, because I ain't heard nothing from them. But I see in their announcements that they had something to say about, and here's the thing that got me. They had something to say about politically, they had something to say that almost was in alignment with the governor's political agenda in terms of her own political fertility, right? They're talking about things that are just pressing back against the state house, against the representatives, right? Because they've been fighting with Gretchen since the beginning of the pandemic. So it almost seems like they're a puppet arm of the governor, low key. Because why are they issuing statements like this and they had one thing to fucking do? They were supposed to issue a report, did they not? Or are they just supposed to be there in perpetuity?
Well, yeah, they're just an arm of the Democratic machine, dude. That's what I'm saying. That they want to look, these black people are doing it. You do it too. That doesn't work. We don't know these weirdos.
No.
The people that people can relate to, you don't want to put them up there because they'll tell the truth. People who can be related to have conviction. You might have people who they have a family connection to black people or the city or black institutions, and so you give them a pass by association, or you knew how they used to be before they had gotten to where they are today, and so they can get through there. But these people, the majority of them on a statewide basis, have no connection to where the majority of black people live in the state of Michigan, which is Detroit.
Well, I mean, I guess they, some folks from Detroit on here. Some of them, I don't know where they live in Detroit. Maybe somebody lives at 6 Mile. Maybe one of them live at 7 Mile in Evergreen, or 7 Mile in Kelly or something. They might be in the cut. They might be over 7 Mile in.
Then why aren't they coming out speaking about how dangerous it is?
Yeah.
Or what
better.
improvements need to
Probably
be made?
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
see what I'm
I
saying?
would.
It's
agree
double
with
edged.
yeah, I agree with that. And
Sherwood Forest.
yeah, they
If
even
you
had a
We're forced, yeah.
Sherwood Forest costs $300,000 minimum, so you can't relate to me.
Yeah. Exactly. They probably
For
Indian
300, you might get a boo boo house
Village.
for 300,000 in Sherwood
Man,
Forest.
we need an intern. If anybody wants to intern for the Freedmen Collective,
We'll
we
give you
need
college
y'all.
credit.
Yeah, we can't do that because they don't. But we need somebody to go and figure out where all these advisory council people like really live, and what their backdrop is. They should have had bios of everybody, honestly.
Hey, how about we do this? If you do it, we'll give you the wrench. We'll make you a moderator. You do it, we'll give you a wrench.
First mod, come on.
We'll give you a wrench.
There we go. All right. So y'all see that the city is doing some weird stuff. The state ain't doing really nothing. They got some people in place to kind of act as a decadent veil or some type of guardsmen, some old fogies. They got the young folks in here too. You know, some youngers on that one. They're gonna be the first wave of blocking and tackling any type of attempt to make the state held accountable for anything. So they're gonna come with some weird suggestions that will never get approved. They're gonna have a grand time and put that on their resume and make that move on up the government ladder, right? You know, because you being appointed to this task force that gives the governor cover for her interactions with the black community. Ooh, right. Let her get reelected. Is she gonna run for reelection?
Probably.
He more than likely will.
Oh, they got it. They got some cake positions coming up for them, don't they?
Yeah, that was even that article that you had scrolled over that said racial healing. So she declared January 19th as a day of racial healing. But make no mistake, we can't have racial healing without reparations, specifically in the Black American community. So anytime you hear a white Democratic politician talk about racial healing, or you hear a Black task force talking about racial healing, but they're not focused on reparations at a federal level, you can call it BS. And that's what we'll leave it.
Yep.
She been in Michigan her whole life. Never heard of her until she decided to run for governor. So that shows you her connection to the black community or racial justice. She's been involved in state politics for like 10 to 15 years. Never heard of her. Never heard of her till she decided to run for governor.
So to wrap all this up with a bow, I forgot to show a video.
20 years.
Let me show this.
She's been involved in state politics 20 years.
You talking about Gretchen?
Yep.
And
she was elected to the House of Representatives in 2001. This is the first time I've ever heard of her when she decided to run for governor. So you don't have no connection to the city or to the state of black people in this state. None of that. You don't have it. You don't have it.
All right. So this is so there was a news conference yesterday morning regarding the state of affairs with these reparations running around in the city, specifically the petition. And they didn't even try to get into what happened with the city charter or what's on the charter proposal P. So we're going to watch this quick 2-minute from WDIV. We're going to come back. We're going to have reaction to that. And then we're going to wrap this up with a bow and get out of here. If you want to call in, please call in before we shut the line down. Get on the line. Get on the line now. I want to hear your opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this full screen for the people. And we're going to watch it.
Advocating for a first step toward, last week we told you about a petition drive advocating for a first step toward possible reparations for Black Detroiters.
Organizers say they collected nearly 4,000 signatures. Now, some people, though, are raising concerns about what's printed on the petitions.
Victor Williams looks at why two groups came forward today in protest.
Well, the group isn't against the idea of reparations altogether. They're just saying that this petition is a little misleading if you flip it on the backside.
This is just a game and it's a scam.
Michigan Southern Christian Leadership President Reverend Aaron McCarthy says the recently circulating petition on reparations isn't all it's cracked up to be.
You are being tricked and fooled by signing this. What you're signing is that you're taking away all of your rights and you're giving someone else, as this man right here said, you're putting the fox in the chicken coop.
The Reverend insists the petition doesn't really give any true power to Detroiters in the first place. Instead, a mayor-appointed reparations committee would be the ones making all the decisions.
There's nothing here that says that you have a choice in what reparations are given, what reparations should be given, And who should be given reparations?
The group also believes potential state funds from marijuana taxes should not be touched because it's nowhere near enough to compensate for the hundreds of years of slavery and its after effects on the African American community.
What should be owed should be up to a tunes of $800,000 US.
Each person should have almost $1 million if it's done right. Reparations have no chance of getting even close to that. And these people know it.
And if that turns out being the case, the U.S. Department of Treasury will be paying trillions to just Detroiters alone.
Everybody out there that signed that petition, you know what to do when you get to the polls. I can't tell you what to do, but you know what's right or wrong.
Attorney Todd Perkins, who's heavily involved with this petition, responded with a statement, and it reads thusly, in part, to those who believe the efforts to bring reparations to life are insufficient or simply improper, I am perplexed about their concerns. This is a substantial effort to empower the citizens of Detroit as it relates to how they want monies allocated.
He goes on to say this is a symbolic and transformative step toward an acknowledgement that blacks were done wrong, mistreated, and deserve compensation, end quote.
It's symbolic. He right. It's all symbolic.
Exactly.
I saw it in your eyes.
Transformative step.
Hey, we should ask him to come on our show.
Oh yeah.
Email Todd Perkins and ask him just to talk about it. We don't need no, I respect the black man who, is trying to do, whatever. I ain't gonna say. I don't want to turn him off before he get on here. Then we could talk bad about him after he leave.
Unless he catch this episode, then he ain't.
No. He ain't gonna watch this episode.
No, he won't. But yeah, that's that. Listen, y'all. It's some very sketchy, shaky stuff afoot. Reparations. Make sure y'all understand. Reparations is this bloop right there. We always have that slide available for your edification, for your consumption. And
we should do that. Every show, just post that slide, first. Just throw it up there. We could just inculcate people, inoculate them with it.
Eat it.
Right. Just subliminal.
It's just a committee, and it could follow those very guidelines because they're establishing what's to be done. But like we've said from the beginning, the city of Detroit doesn't have enough jurisdiction, scope, breadth, or depth of capability or jurisdiction to do what needs to be done. And even though the language can be surgical enough to say that we're going to only levy and award wealth and other policies and protections that are within the scope of specifically the city of Detroit and that are above and beyond the average happenings across the country at any given time, so that we can kind of, micro focus on what exactly Detroit specifically did that was super ridiculous and kind of levy the charge on Detroit. The reality is that Detroit ain't got the money. And you got to really look at where did the money go that we should have gotten. You can't just take it from the pockets of people who are paying for marijuana today. You better go and find out what you've done with the money. And Detroit ain't going to do that. And this stuff that you're seeing here is probably nothing more than political posturing to make it look like these people are more progressive. And they also, of course, as we talked about, are working toward the Democratic strategy of taking that heat off of the White House, taking it off the federal and the national level, to support keeping black people continuously in the sunken place, almost continuously in a place of distraction, rather than being on Pennsylvania Avenue standing in front of the White House. They don't want people to show up to Pennsylvania Avenue. That's why they're doing this in Detroit. That's why they're doing it in Evanston. That's why they're doing it in the state level, even in California. Like, yes, there is research that can be done. And yes, if you do it correctly, you can extract some specific things that the state or the local governments were responsible for. But that won't even be 20% of what's owed. And it won't have the breadth, the depth, the capability, the jurisdiction, or any of that to implement the strategies, policies, and protections that are also needed above and beyond just the cash. You might as well just do it all at the federal level and stop playing games. So we're about to start to close this out. We do have to do your mans and them, but I'm going to see, Ernest, you want to do your mans and them, or you want to just skip that today? And do you have any last words on this?
So as far as your mans and them, I mean, I found some brief stuff. It was just really covering Candace Owens and you got people who are general naysayers. So Candace Owens came out, called Juneteenth stupid, and just a continuation of her degrading Black Americans as usual, as Republican pundits love to see. Then you also had there's a guy on YouTube, his name's Officer Tatum. He's another like Candace Owens. He came out and said that crackhead George Floyd gets a statue. So we're dealing with the same old. We got coons on the scene who will always try to bash our progress in America. Just the small progress is just nitpick, etc. But those are the two folks I was going to call out for your mans and them. As for the show, I think a lot of our audience and viewers got the chance to at least hear a little bit about the Detroit reparations that they've been, getting glimpses of in the news. I think as we go forward with time, similar to Evanston, the one thing that's being revealed is that city reparations isn't enough. We all can agree that the state has the greater ability to, make more discoveries and more coordination of, that state's resources than the city would, but at the same time, the federal government even has greater leverage or power to do those things. So I think we can all agree that reparations is deserved at a federal level. Right now, we might see more and more cities that come forward with their own version of reparations. I think we just got to all be diligent and make sure we call it, make sure we call a spade a spade. So we know that a city can't pass reparations possibly. So we need to let all cities know that that's not reparations. That's something else. So don't use it to, feed into the Black voters and, get these people hyped up when that's not really the case.
And like as I like to say, I steal from Yvette Carnell a lot of good terminology and ideology. And one of the things she says is, I think it's political creativity, or the idea that you can create a system that can deal with the issue within the realm of the framework that exists today. In terms of how government traditionally works, you don't have to abolish stuff just to deal with this issue. So it's not like we don't have any ways to make whole our community and enact reparations. The government shows us, especially over the past 2 years, every other week, they show us all the extent of this expediency and that they can go to pass a bill, and they show us the ridiculousness of the amount of money they can pull out of thin air. And they have a history of doing it for other groups. So anybody who's in denial or who's saying that reparations will never come is people who are in the way, and anybody who's saying that it's impossible are people who are not educated. So political will and political creativity is all it takes. And I think the Black community is lacking that sincerely to a grave degree. And the ones who have it are looked at like we're crazy. And that is a problem that is going to be the death of our community in this country. The richest country in the world, the people who built it are the ones who are dying the fastest. Stedman, I'll let you close it out, and Gerard.
So two things I want to say. So keep your eyes on the situation that happened in Ypsilanti, Washtenaw County, with the name was Ryan Lee Nguyen, the Vietnamese guy who shot a 6-year-old Black neighbor, Kobe Daniel, in Ypsi, because that needs to be charged as a hate crime under the new COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, or like we talked previously, under the Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 249. That's a hate crime. So I don't know how else you can explain a guy shooting a 6-year-old in broad daylight, menacing him with a sledgehammer, anything other than a hate crime. Okay, number one. Number two, there was a young Black woman in Flint who was involved in a police, officer involved shooting. She was shot by an officer on the Juneteenth parade. So Saturday, they say her boyfriend was killed 3 days prior, not by police. And, there's no body cam footage. They're trying to piece together from eyewitness reports. And so this goes back to a show we did, one of our first shows. So about 7 months ago, we talked about Flint and the long-term effects of lead in your water, so that it diminishes your cognitive faculties. It diminishes your ability to properly judge right and wrong behaviors. And so what we're seeing now is the kids who are victims of that. If she's 19 now, 2013, 8 years ago, she was 11 years old or 10 years old or 12 years old. And we're seeing the effects of having long-term lead exposure in children. And so there needs to be a wider conversation about Rick Snyder, the state of Michigan, the fact that Gretchen Whitmer won't bring this to justice, Kim Worthy Wayne County prosecutor isn't doing anything about it. Dana Nessel, first LGBT attorney general in the state of Michigan, is not doing anything about it. We need to know what the problem is, right? We know what the problem is. That's why you watch the show. You know what the problem is. It's corruption. So that's it. Peace. Educate yourselves, read, be abreast of what's going on in the world around you.
J. Rod, you got anything for the people? He might be gone. Oh, there he is.
No, I'm still here. No, man, this is always the same, man. We have no permanent friends. We have no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. You all stay tuned and keep abreast of what's going on in this political season. It's off presidential, but we have a lot of stuff going on the ballot, and we're going to be bringing you to it, local stuff, August, and then obviously in November there'll be another one. So stay tuned to what's happening around you, these proposals, petitions, and everything, because it's people tuning out and not paying attention to how these guys, these people, I won't say guys, these people sneaking into office. That's how it happens. 13% turnout rate during off election is not where it's at. So, and it's because we're giving up our position because someone said, do for self. I don't need to worry about that. And then don't realize that these people have everything to do about trying to do business or trying to do for self. Right? They'll create conditions where it's impossible. So that's all I have to say to you guys, or to the people. I'll see y'all later.
Hey, wait. We have fun on this show. We can be lighthearted. We can be fun. Pistons got the #1 pick in the draft lottery today. First time in history of the organization, they got the #1 pick. So it ain't all doom and gloom, Detroit.
He said it might be looking good in 8 years from now.
Yeah,
Man. Well, with that, y'all, thank you again, and we out.
Peace.